Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Brass Beat podcast. Today we are here with Ben van Dijk. He's for sure one of the figures of the trombone world in the history of of trombone. That's for sure. So how is everything? How is everything going, Ben? Where are you now? Are you in The Hague?
Yes, I'm in The Hague, at home, actually on my top floor, in my studio, which actually is not really a studio. It's simply the top floor, and I can show you this. I joined this with my wife.
Oh,
You see this?
that's all I'm sure there you can get a clean sound.
I do my utmost best to get a clean sound here.
Of course.
This is where I am a lot at this time of our careers, because we're all in the middle of this pandemic misery.
Yes, I know.
It's a terrible period, which is already for a year going on, which is putting a lot of burden on our shoulders. But we have to make something of it. We have to keep smiling, and we have to try keep inventing new things and motivate ourselves and perhaps motivate others.
No, that's true. That's true. That's true. Are you optimistic regarding the end of the pandemic, or you don't know?
Yes, I'm optimistic. I'm always optimistic. History goes always like this. And I hope the vaccinations, because I will do this. I know there are people a little bit against things like this, but I think the more people do this, we will be a little bit more free again. I don't know how long it will take to be really back to what we call normal. Let's be honest. It might be for a long time, and especially for our profession, it's difficult with concerts and people, together.
Of course. I was gonna say, for those of you who maybe live in Mars or in the moon, Ben van Dijk, he's bass trombone in the Rotterdam Philharmonic Orchestra. He's also teaching in the Hague Conservatory. And I take advantage of this moment to say that if you want to share this video with your friends, now is the moment, so more people can learn from Ben's experience and everything he has to share with us. I was wondering about how was Ben as a child. How was your childhood, and where did you grow up?
Yeah, well, I grew up in The Hague, so I'm living in my hometown actually again. And my father was a musician. My father was the principal trombone player of the Hague Philharmonic Orchestra. We call it the Residentieorkest here in The Hague, which is a really good orchestra. Actually, when I was born, he was the principal trombone in the Royal Marine Band. But during my youth, I think I was only 8 years when he went to the Residentieorkest to become principal trombone there. Little bit strange. My father came from a big music family. All his brothers, I think he had 6 brothers. They were with 6 brothers, and they were all musicians in the local wind band. But my father never put any pressure or even, motivated me in a certain way of taking up an instrument. So I started really, and some people find this a little bit strange, but I started to play the trombone. I didn't play anything before until I was 15.
Really?
Yes. So
kind of like Christian Limber. He did kind of the same.
Also quite old. Yeah, that's true. No, I was rather late, and the very start was also a little, how do I say, problematic. My father thought I didn't have any talent, and I heard him talking with some colleagues, and he didn't know I was listening to this conversation. And actually, they were talking a little bit about me and about, Ben is also trying to do something on the trombone, but I don't think it will be something, because when I hear him sing, it's always out of tune, and it triggered something with me, and I was something. Oh man, I'm going to prove you wrong. So and then of course having somebody professional at home is a big advantage.
Yes.
Although I cannot say he was my real teacher, but he was my biggest inspiration. We played duets from the beginning, from the very start, with long notes in the beginning, of course, and we had little Robert Müller, old school of German trombone school, with very simple Bach chorale in two voices. And I played with my father, and my father was really amazing player with a beautiful sound, singing trombone player. Everybody who knew him can for sure agree with that. So that was a big inspiration, and things went actually super quick. Actually, before my 18th, I played the third trombone in the 8th Symphony of Mahler in the Residency Orchestra, in the orchestra of my father. So actually in less than 3 years from scratch, from zero, into being able to participate in an orchestra. Although my technical abilities were still very limited, I had a sort of, I could integrate.
Of course. And I was thinking, you said like your father at the beginning, maybe he thought you had no talent. Did he change his mind after watching you play with?
Yes, of course. But it took a while. I can tell you, this is, because many people mostly only talk about their successes and about their being great, etc., etc. But people who know me a little bit better know that I can be very nervous for things. And actually, when I got my first job, I was 20, and I got my job in the radio. And I remember I was still living with my parents, and every day I was going from The Hague to Hilversum, which is not far, but I had to go by train, so it was a 1.5 travel time. And every morning I felt sick. And it was simply because I was nervous to go to the rehearsals to this orchestra. And then my father, he was the best, but he made some mistakes. And this was, I think, a mistake, because he was actually saying after a couple of weeks, Ben, is this profession really something for you? Wow. Because I know that he also suffered from nervousness, some pain in the stomach before a concert, and taking vitamin C tablets because his mouth was dry. And I recognize. So I changed. I survived. I got some help from older colleagues in the radio who saw that I was suffering a little bit, so they helped me. And everything went okay, but for me, one of the most important things in a long time in my career was to get a compliment from my father.
Of course.
That was really, and at the end, because he witnessed Nana, for instance, my first solo CD. He passed away in 1993, and I'm talking wrong, it's 2003, sorry. 2003, and Nana was out in 2000, so he witnessed this, and he was so super proud of this. He was listening all the time to the CD, and so, no, it changed, but it took a while.
Of course. And I was thinking that, of course, everything has changed during the last 4 years in every aspect, like education, even in your talking about the family, also in the institutions. So what is very interesting for me is, and I mentioned that before the interview started, is that now you're a teacher in the same conservatory where you studied in The Hague. So can you tell us a little bit how the education system has changed in terms of music in comparison with how it was before? It's
everything in this teaching world and the way teachers in generally behave has changed. Many times in this past time, teachers were very dogmatic, I'm generalizing. It's a little general
Yes.
what I say. Not everybody was like this,
Yes.
but there were many, and they were not open. You know, you were not about to go. You were not allowed to go to somebody else. They didn't like that. You know, if you only talk about another teacher.
Yes.
I was a little bit lucky because I studied with an American trombone player. Was actually the co-principal of my father in the residential orchestra, Art Moore. And so I was a little bit lucky. He brought in influence from the States, things I didn't hear from before. And actually, my father also didn't hear from. And if I think back of that time, and I compare it with now, the first thing what comes to mind is everything is more open. Everything is more, much more possibilities today for the students to play ensemble. For instance, ensemble. You know, trombone ensemble is such a normal thing today. We all, every school has its own, every university, every conservatory has its own trombone choir. We didn't have a trombone ensemble at all. Actually, I was one of the first ones actually who took Tommy Peterson music to, I bought everything on Giardinelli. Giardinelli in New York was at that time the big shop where you could buy music. And I bought everything online. We didn't have this, what we are doing now, you know, this openness of possibility to go more international. So a big change is the more international feeling we have today in teaching. If I compare that with the teaching, which was very local, it was just my conservatory, and I didn't know anything about other schools or master classes or whatever.
And do you think that maybe because of nowadays there is too much information and too much sources, do you think that can be also considered a bad point sometimes? Because
of course, absolutely true what you say, and it depends, you know, it depends. Sorry, students, it depends how smart the student is to be really intelligent in making the right choices, because there is so much information coming to us, and it's not only the information about the music, but about everything. It can be political, it can be whatever happens on the other side of the world. In 1 minute we know what is happening. So I think that can be a trouble for students sometimes to focus. I think if I think back of my time studying, it was perhaps a little bit easier to focus on what you were doing because there were no sidetracks. There were no, you know, all sort of Facebook, Instagram, and I know I participate quite a lot in this.
By the way, do you use TikTok? Are we gonna see?
No, I tell you very honestly, I was 1 week on it, and then I thought, no, okay, not yet.
Not yet. No, that's true. I think. No. With TikTok, it's gonna happen kind of like it happened with Instagram. Like at the beginning, you know, it's not maybe for classical music, but maybe in the following years, it will come.
Probably. I will have a look at that.
So,
please.
No, sorry. I was gonna say that I'm gonna introduce, now that we are talking about this, the differences between. Or in other words, how the educational music system has changed through the last few years. I'm going to introduce one of the questions that were sent through social media. It is by Jan Cruz, sorry for the pronunciation, from the Netherlands. He says, tips for young students. And I want to add something for this question, which is, you know, in a world, let's say nowadays a little bit pessimistic towards future, is there hope? And if there is so, which tips would you give to students to remain hard workers on their daily basis and approach future with some optimism? What do you think?
That's a difficult question to give really an amazing answer on, because the situation is of course difficult. So the first thing what comes to mind is try to be multifunctional be a musician who can participate in all sort of styles. That's with the trombone. We are lucky. It's an instrument which is not only related to classical music or only to jazz or as you know, my love is flamenco, and I even have CDs where people play, besides myself, try to do a sort of flamenco style on trombone. Be innovative in your future views. If somebody comes to me and says, I want to become, the only thing I want to do is to become a bass trombone player in a big symphony orchestra. I think, okay, that's a great goal. And let's work in that direction. But at the same time, when we're working on this, think about all the possibilities which you can do with the trombone in ensemble, and because the world of symphony orchestras, I hope, and I also believe, I'm positive in this, because we still have museas, and it is sort of living musea. It's it's full with a lot of history of music, and I think this is also going like this. We also in my orchestra have trouble to get full houses. Yes. But I think this can change. At a certain point, people want to get a little bit of meditation. And where can you get meditation better than sitting in a hall listening to a beautiful symphony? So, but for students, this is important to. I've always been positive in the most negative times when I was, in my head was a big chaos of thoughts, but I still, I kept going. And today, when you ask me about the advantages and disadvantages of this time, there is so much inspiration and motivation coming from the screen, from people doing all sort of wonderful things with our instrument. If you compare this with my youth, there were some trombone quartets. We did something in my orchestra, but what we do today with the trombone, I don't want to be, like, oh, Ricardo, but what you are doing yourself, the little videos you do. But you're not alone. It's so many people who do amazing things at this moment. And this, I hope that this is an inspiration for the young players.
Sorry. I was going to say that in one of the previous podcasts with Martin Zippers and also with David Rejano as well, we were actually mentioning the same thing you were saying before, that you need to be able to do all kind of things. Diversifying your sources of income and activity. So then you don't depend only on one way.
I have always done this, and I have to say that I'm lucky with my father, who was basically a classical trombone player, but he brought, when he went with the residency orchestra on tour to the United States, he brought the 21 trombones, and they were just out at that time, 21 trombones, Irby Green. So when I was young, I heard the 21 trombones, Stardust and Perdido and all those great songs with Irby and his 24 friends. It was amazing, and also my teacher was open for in the school, when we go back to your first question, it comes up now, I remember I wanted to play some jazz in my final examination.
With bass trombone. With
bass trombone and a little bit trombone ensemble, and I was actually at that time also trying to be somebody who could improvise. I had an own jazz quintet with a saxophone and drums, piano, and bass. So we played jazz gigs, and I wanted to play something in my final examination, and I had to fight because the director of the school was famous Dutch contemporary music composer. And no, jazz, this is not allowed here, and this is completely, there was not a possibility for jazz education at that time In Holland, when I was there, actually, there was not even a possibility. I didn't finish my final examination as bass trombone, but as trombone. It was not allowed to do a final examination on the bass trombone, and I got a special mark on my diploma which says specialized in bass trombone.
Yeah, it's kind of the same that happens with euphonium. It used to happen with euphonium sometimes. In the
Same,
past.
absolutely. Yeah. So I think things have changed so positively, and what the most important for me is the international way of thinking. And I think I'm part with my colleague George Wiegel, who was a colleague of mine also in the Radio Philharmonic in my first orchestra, and he was 2 years or 3 years younger than I was, and we played also before that. We played together, and we became teachers in Rotterdam Conservatory, and I think we changed actually the way of thinking, and especially thinking more international, he brought in Michel Becquet to the school. I think I brought in a lot because I studied with Jeff Reynolds in Los Angeles, and I studied.
I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah.
When you studied with Jeff Reynolds and also Roger Bobo, I've read about it. Had you already won your position in the Netherlands radio, or was it before?
Yes. You don't have to think that I was there for a year or something. No, I was two long summers. I think I was there 2 times, 4 or 5 weeks. I was there, and actually I lived with Jeff Reynolds. He invited me the first time, not, but the second time he invited me in the house. Yes, I was actually finished the conservatory, and I finished it cum laude. And as a sort of extra, there was a possibility. I got a sort of scholarship to study abroad. And Art Moore, my teacher, this is also for my own career, has been extremely important. He introduced me to the International Trombone Association. And I'm a member of the International Trombone Association, I think since 1973. Which is a long time ago,
1973.
Yeah, so really from the very start of I still have all the magazines here, and the first one, they are sort of, I don't know how you call this in English, but they're just like A4 papers clicked together. It's not a glossy magazine in the beginning. It's just copies.
And do you still keep sending these magazines over the world?
I still have them here.
And nowadays, do they still keep releasing?
I still get it, and it's going like this. But this was a big important introduction to the international trombone world, because all of a sudden you read about, at that time, Edward Kleinhammer, Ostrander, all the great guys, and technical things about breathing, about slide movement, about tongue position. I never had heard before of, was in this internet, and in this magazine, I read a review of the Alpine Symphony with Zubin Mehta of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. And I heard a contrabass trombone playing there, and I thought...
With LA? Did you play there with... Was Roger Bobo back then?
Yeah. Roger was there, and Jeff Reynolds, and it's an amazing recording. John Stevens on first trumpet. That's legendary for me. One of the best Alpine symphonies, if you like brass.
Really, it would be great if you can share the audio or something. It would be awesome.
But I read this review of the, and I thought, who is the guy playing contrabass trombone? I want to study with him. So that was the reason I made contact. And making contact, Ricardo, at that time was not sending a message in Messenger, but it was sending a letter and then waiting for a couple of weeks if you get an answer or not, and then I get this answer that he was interested, and I organized everything and I went there. And that was, for me, completely milestone in my career, and changing milestone in my career. It opened so many thoughts and international influences.
Okay, just a very short question about what you just said. I know for artists like you or people who is important within this world, they get day by day different messages, and maybe it's a good moment now to bring up how should people contact somebody like Ben van Dijk or any other teacher? Do you prefer Facebook, social media, or email? Which is the most polite way?
Dangerous question, eh?
You know, because sometimes, also as a composer, sometimes I get questions such as like, okay, my name is Harry from Texas. Can you send me your piece for 2 trombones? Thank you. Bye.
Okay, that's of course a good example of something which is not really okay. It should always, I'm brought up with being polite and introducing yourself, and even actually today I got a message from somebody who heard my Oblivion video where I played guitar and later on with the trombone choir, and he asked me how can I buy the music, but he started with introducing himself and asking me, I don't know if this is the good way to contact you, or do you prefer me to send an email? I actually prefer, especially if it's questions like this, I don't mind if somebody sends me a messenger, and I think most people can tell that I will always answer, and if the tone of the message is not good, I will also tell it. I will be really open in this, not like this, but telling somebody that this might not be the right way to contact somebody. Simply respect and politeful. Then most of I don't have problems at all, but some other, I cannot talk for everybody, and I can imagine that some people, some people are so famous and everybody want to study with them, and let's say your teacher Joe Alessi, I can imagine that for him it might be sometimes overwhelming,
impossible to answer.
It's impossible, so for me, I'm not Joe Alessi. And
but kind of.
Well,
no, but
no, you know what I mean. So respectful and polite, then you can, I think, contact everybody, and cross your fingers for a nice, polite, and respectful answer.
Of course,
I do my best to give that.
Okay, Ben. Sorry, can I call you? How do you like? How can I call you, Ben or Mr.
Ben? Of course.
Okay, Ben,
all my students call me Ben.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. Actually, I have to say. Well, later we will talk about your students. I have some messages from them to you. I have some very important trombone players that send you a message as well. Nice. But we will leave that for later. So you've won throughout your career different orchestral auditions in the Netherlands Radio Philharmonic Orchestra, also in the Rotterdam Philharmonic Orchestra. How have auditions changed throughout the years that you've been in this symphonic world?
Yeah.
And which tips would you give to nowadays audition applicants?
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, first I have to correct you a little bit about my own audition career.
Okay.
I didn't win so many auditions. Actually, I won, which was called actually a sort of academy at that time. The radio, when I was 20, they had an academy, and they had an opening for trombone. I won this audition, and I was there for 6 months, and then the opening for bass trombone. I entered actually for tenor trombone. At that time, I was actually a tenor trombone. So I changed more or less around my 20th. And then there was the opening for the Radio Philharmonic. And I also won that audition. I was there for 23 years,
23.
and then I got a telephone call from the Rotterdam Philharmonic if I wanted to join them.
Okay, nice call. That's one of those.
Really nice call, and it took me one sleepless night to make the decision, because the radio was at that time going really well. It was really going. We had the Dutch conductor Edo de Waard, and we just recorded all Mahler symphonies with that orchestra. We're doing the whole Ring des Nibelungen, and it was really a great time. But Rotterdam, the radio is a radio orchestra, is part of the radio system, doesn't have his own hall, doesn't have his real own audience, not the friends of the Radio Philharmonic they have now, but at that time they didn't have this. And Rotterdam had this, but more important, first of all, one of my best friends, who's now sitting next to me in the orchestra, Hendrik Jan Renes, the tuba player, who was also in the radio before with me, he went to Rotterdam. He was in Rotterdam. So we were reunited again. And Valery Gergiev was the chief conductor there. And he was also one of the, the people who, would like me to come from the radio to Rotterdam. And I'm a big Gergiev fan, especially Gergiev from that time was unique, was really, in my opinion, one of the most exciting conductors you can imagine. So it was quite easy for me to make that change. But talking about auditions and what I think of is important for auditions. Now, probably many others will say the same, but everything starts with, for me, five keywords. I always use this. Also, my students know this. And it starts always with sound. You really have to have a great sound. Now, what is a great sound? We can discuss about this or that, of course. But still, it needs to be a consistent, controlled, can be big, but it should also be rich in overtones, things like in overtones, things like that. So sound is extremely important. Directly related is intonation. You need to really be able to stand there and do your audition and play alone with a good sense of intonation. And it's not easy, it's a difficult instrument, many possibilities on the slide. So that's something to work very hard on. Articulation, number 3, articulation for all the different, because an audition is a weird thing. We play from the Schöpfung, let's say a bass trombone audition. We play from the Schöpfung to Shostakovich in 20 minutes, and everything is little parts off, and you have to switch in style in a split second. So another thing is dynamic, control over your dynamic. You need to be able to play soft with a controlled, still, not a fuzzy sound. It needs to be centered, focused. And then, of course, a feeling for style. That you feel, what is the difference between a Brahms symphony and a Tchaikovsky symphony in articulation? If you compare Bruckner with the way you play, well, for instance, Rossini, when you have to play La Cazzaladra or yes, the Willem Tell. So stylistic is extremely important. Some other things I always say for people who are preparing for an audition is do a lot of mock auditions.
Mock auditions, yes.
Yeah, play for your friends. Visualize the committee.
Play for your neighbors.
Play for your wife. I have a very critical wife downstairs who will directly say, "Oh no, it's not good. It's not good." Not a musician, but super good ears. So this is extreme. But students, they can organize, of course, with the teacher. And as a teacher, I think you should do your utmost best to organize this for the students. And luckily, in my schools, we mostly arrange a lot of possibilities for the students to play for each other. But they can also arrange this themselves.
Yes.
Then one of the most important thing is the breathing. And I'm talking about the very first breath of the excerpt you are playing. Did you really think about how am I, where am I going to breathe? How long will this breathing be? What will I have in my mind before I start this excerpt? So I say to my students, make a plan for every excerpt. Like, if I have to do bum ba dim bum bim bum bim, I don't start bum ba dum. No, in my head I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Bum ba dim bum bim. So I count off in my head the music. 2 bars, can be 6 beats, can be 8 beats, whatever. And I always take the breath exactly at the same moment. Because we all know an audition, all of a sudden you're behind the curtain or in front of this committee and it is completely silent and you have to start. This can be difficult. And you don't have a conductor who helps you to start. So be your own conductor, prepare every excerpt in way of counting off in your head and where and how to breathe. Because if that air is not good, if that air, that's what I've learned in the year. My nerves, I talked earlier about my nerves. I need to be in charge of my air. If I can do this, I know I can play. And so there should be a sort of, one of my colleagues, Bart van Leer, Bart van Leer, the famous jazz player. He always talks about coordination. Coordination starts with...
In the breathing process, do you mean?
But actually in the many coordination, even moving the slide is coordination.
Yes.
The tongue is coordination. Everything is about coordination. But this breathing thing, so if I really simply have... There's a sort of flow. It's like a tennis movement. You move your racket back and boom, it goes. And
this is maybe a very specific question, but do you breathe within the beat?
Yeah.
Or do you breathe both in the beat and in tempo? You know what I mean? Like
yes.
You necessarily need to breathe in one pump.
Yeah.
I do, for example. I like to do that. I know some people, they just have it in mind and they just breathe.
Yeah, I know. And if it works, Ricardo. It's no problem. But I have seen more people who suffer from this starting thing. And because they don't think or they don't make a plan, at a certain point it should be natural. It should be natural anyway. But you can... Again, it's like tennis, if you want to train your backhand and you don't have a famous coach to help you with a tennis canon, you go to the wall and you take 3 tennis balls and you hit again and again and again and again. So the repetition of a movement and that will bring in something natural, but you have to think about it.
Now we were before almost 40 people watching this live chat. We are growing little by little, so feel free to share this with your friends. People is writing in the chat saying hello, like Ben is a great musician. Meg Kerovic saying every time very polite answering from Maestro Ben. People is sending questions just saying basically how are you. So feel free to write your questions right now. I'm gonna play a short clip by Ben van Dijk with the Rotterdam Philharmonic playing bass trombone solo of the Mahler 7th Symphony. So we listened to Ben van Dijk playing amazingly with the trombone section of Rotterdam Philharmonic. So for how long have you been in this? How many years have you been in this musical world? Because probably you have many stories to share with us. So I was gonna ask you first in the area of the orchestra, if you could highlight one good experience, or at least or two or three. Just you choose. It can be one or it can be more than one.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to choose because I have to choose between my two orchestras, and I love them equally. I was for 23 years in the Radio Philharmonic, and now I'm in my 23rd year, and actually also in my last full year because I'm heading into a pension. In my 23rd year with the Rotterdam Philharmonic. And yeah, if you ask me real highlight, I think one of the first things which comes up is a highlight of 4 operas, because with the Radio Philharmonic I played the whole Ring des Nibelungen on contrabass trombone, and it was also a little bit my debut on the contrabass trombone. And to play Rheingold and Walküre, Siegfried, Götterdämmerung in the Concertgebouw, because it was not in the pit. We played it in the on stage, which of course meant that sometimes when the singers were singing, we had to play a little bit softer than probably in Bayreuth in the pit. But the sound, of course, of the Concertgebouw, and sitting there with your with this big beautiful instrument, the contrabass trombone, that I for sure can say that this whole cycle was absolutely one of my highlights. Another highlight which I would like to mention is playing with Valery Gergiev, and we played actually on tour. We played in the United States. We played Shostakovich 5. And to play Shostakovich with Gergiev is always, is different. Every concert is different. You never know what is going to happen, because he is not somebody who has done it on the rehearsals like this and does it the same. It can go in all directions.
He changes a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. He changes on the spot. And but he allowed me, to do some things in the piece, which I octavated something in the first movement, which is really fun to do. Pedal F and pedal, which is just great fun to do. But especially playing this with Gergiev is always so many highlights with Gergiev. To be honest, I have been lucky with conductors.
Would you say he's your favorite conductor you've worked with?
Yeah.
And if you had to mention like a couple more?
Yeah. With Gergiev, like I say, all the Shostakovich. But in the radio, we did a lot of operas. And for instance, I remember doing Pique Dame, Tchaikovsky's Pique Dame. And the famous, he died I think 2 years ago, Dmitry Vorostovsky is this famous bass baritone singer, Russian. And Gergiev always took his Kirov, Mavrinsky soloist with the orchestra, and we did those operas again on stage, because we have this Saturday afternoon concerts in the Concertgebouw from the radio. So we played there. And so I remember doing those operas, and Pique Dame is one of my favorite Tchaikovsky operas. Yevgeny Onegin and Pique Dame are so amazing. And doing this with Gergiev is always super. But for instance, if you want me to mention more, I remember doing a Bruckner 4 with Simon Rattle. And it was really amazing in Rotterdam. It was an amazing experience. I remember the first rehearsal. We started and he was with a little bit like this, and he was smiling, and we were, playing really like this. And he stopped after playing the first movement through and said, "Oh, guys, really super. I love it. You had your Star Wars moments now. Now we're going to make it into Bruckner." So he started to shape it, and he really changed it very quickly, and it felt so good. It was still powerful, but it was never over the top. It was just singing, rich, playing. And I remember that after one of those concerts, Hendrik Jan and me, we went backstage to shake hands with the conductor. And I like to mention this. It's one of my little highlights when Rattle said to the two of us, my favorite two low brass players. Really like this. And we were like, okay.
That's a quote you can write in your resume.
That's so nice. It's so nice. So that was giving us a very good thing. But so many beautiful moments. Also less beautiful moments. I don't know if you want to hear some of them, because they are also there.
Of course.
For instance, Gergiev. The pictures of an exhibition on tour. I think we did 3 or 4 wonderful concerts, and then we were in Thessaloniki doing a concert, and we were at the great cave of Kiev, and one part of the orchestra, and it was because of Gergiev, one part of the orchestra was in 4 and the other part was in 2. So we went completely like this for my idea it was minutes, but it was probably only something like 5 or 6 seconds. Then everybody was, it went like this. But, and after that, the principals, we had to go to the room of Gergiev because he was really angry. And he was blaming everybody
but himself.
But not himself.
Of course.
So this was a weird moment. This was absolutely a weird moment.
Oh, of course. Somebody told me a thing also, David, that I don't know when was that. I think it was in Mahler 2, playing Mahler 2, that before the chorale, he just stayed like this for 30 seconds, and they was looking at each other like, should we come in? Sometimes I've seen this in Malaysia when I was working there, that we had all kind of like good conductors, but also some of them not that good. And I remember we had a plan always, which was whenever we don't know what to do, just we look at the principal and we start whenever, and it worked at all time. The conductor was never.
We know, when I work with Gergiev since his very first concert in Holland, with the radio. I'm not 100% sure which year it was, but it was in the 80s, and Gergiev was still, it was clear what he did. But today it's he goes like this, and sometimes we also don't know where to start. And then of course, with my principals Alex and Pierre, we always make the decision. Pierre, if you go with your slide and we follow you, and I follow his movement, so the tuba also knows what is going to happen. And with this section, I'm super lucky with the guys I play for 23 years now with. And of course, we are 2 generations. Hendrik Jan and me, we are a little bit older than the other guys. But there is so much respect and fun. And, it sounds perhaps a little bit arrogant, but we don't have to do much to play together or to play in tune. We don't have to, let's do again, and let's do again, and let's do again. It's okay, and when it's not okay, we know it, and we simply say a few things to each other, or we do something together. But with somebody like Gergiev, you need this. And after Gergiev, I worked with Yannick Nesses again for several years as chief conductor, and he was much easier to play with. Nowadays he's also a little bit more. A little bit more free in his movement, which is also good. Sometimes and that's why I probably like liked so much to play with Gergiev. Even there are moments where you sometimes think, "Oh, come on, Valery, help us." But I like freedom in music. I like freedom in music.
I'm laughing because somebody. This is not mandatory, but sometimes people donate through the chat just to send questions for you. And I have people who are not even professional musicians. So somebody sent a question through a donation saying, the name is Darth Vader. Maybe because you mentioned Star Wars, and he's saying, is the trombone a dark instrument? Yes, I would say.
Is trombone a dark instrument? Yeah. Many times in the compositions of the great composers, we are not the most joyful people in the colors of the orchestra. But it can also be a very funny instrument, and it can be very joyful. It can be very joyful. At least I try in my playing to bring as much different aspects of what is possible to do on the bass trombone. Not one sound. The sound. I'm doing these little videos, and I'm doing this series of trios or duets. Steven Verhelst is writing for me, and I did already with Milton from Brazil, and with Joe Alessi.
And, by the way, we have an audio question by Milton. I will say to you in a second. Before we go there, I just wanted to end up with this section, the orchestral section, with a few short answer questions.
Yeah.
Have you ever cried in orchestra?
Yes.
Can you say when?
Yes, I can say. I think it's several times that at least there were tears in my eyes. But I remember one very special, and that was Ein Heldenleben. And not the brass parts, but actually brass part, the beautiful horn solo at the very end. And my sister had passed away quite recently before that. And it was really, that music is emotional anyway. And at that point, I could not keep it dry. That's.
Thank you for saying.
And you mentioned this, but together with my wife, we have more or less the same music and same And I had it also with my father, same emotions with music. And we were actually talking because the other day I found a recording of the Alpine, another Richard Strauss, but the Alpine Symphony. And the Alpine Symphony, of course, has also some of those really emotional moments. And this big thing where the trumpet goes into the high register, etc., etc. And this is a moment where my wife always has tears in her eyes when she hears this, and the horn section with bells up goes like, that's crazy. And I also, when I listen to this, I get this. And so she said, can you play this? When you play this, don't you have then the tears in your eyes? And that's the funny thing that you don't have, because you have to do your thing, and it's great, and it gives a lot of joy, enjoyment, and emotional enjoyment, but not tears or whatever. It's mostly actually, that's why I like so much being in the orchestra, because many moments where we do nothing, the most beautiful things happen in the orchestra. And if you're lucky and you have a good string orchestra and you have wonderful woodwind players, and I've been lucky, also in my orchestra now, the flutes, oboe, the amazing players, and I can sit there, and I see many times. I'm also on my telephone. Yes, I'm also in my telephone, but I'm always, because I'm also from the generation who didn't have a telephone in the orchestra. When I was in the beginning in the orchestra, I was sitting there. I was just sitting there, and I was not reading a newspaper or whatever. So I was always listening to what was happening in the orchestra, and how this English horn was playing these beautiful solos in whatever Tristan und Isolde, or and I was listening. How is she doing this phrasing? How can I also try to do something like this on my instrument? So I think most of the things I learned from my father playing duets, and listening in the orchestra and listening to El Camarón de la Isla, but also to Placido Domingo or to Frank Sinatra or Barbara Streisand, you know.
Barbara, wow.
Ja, toch?
Okay, let's go to a few questions that were sent by the followers. The first of them is by Jose Milton.
Yeah.
You recorded recently a duo, also by Steven Verhelst. We will also talk about Steven Verhelst a little bit.
Yeah.
This is his question.
Hi Ben, how are you, my friend? Hope you are well, safe, healthy in this moment that we are living. I have a question about low register. Could you explain your concepts about the register and how what kind of exercises do you use to improve it? Miss you a lot, my friend. See you. Bye bye.
Super.
Hi, my friend.
Great to hear his voice. Great to hear his voice.
Yes.
The one of the best trombone players I know is the most beautiful smile on earth.
Yes, that's true. Smiley is so
Yeah.
wide. Yeah, I met him in Portia in the competition. Of course, he kicked our asses and he won. But he's amazing and super strong, melodical, everything.
And super nice guy, super nice guy. Yeah, low register. Interesting question. I suffered in the beginning a little bit with my low register because I was learned to play everything with one setting. And I could play quite a lot with one setting, but not below A flat, pedal A flat, a little bit G, but below that it started to become really, really weak. But I could play my starting career with that because you don't have to play that often in the orchestra that low, let's be honest. If you can play pedal B flat, pedal A, the Symphony Fantastique is already not really a problem. So there were not really problems, but in the solo repertoire I felt limitations. And actually Erik van Lier is one of the brother of Bart van Lier, is an amazing bass trombone player, but he is gifted with a sort of one setting embouchure. So he was one of the guys in the beginning who told me, one setting and like this. But then I went to Jeff Reynolds, and Jeff Reynolds introduced me to the Bulldog embouchure, chorus down and little raised.
I never learned how to do it. I tried many times. Maybe I need a bigger mouthpiece, but it's hard.
Yeah, it's a matter of keep trying, every day trying a little bit to find your setting. But I started to do this, and for a long time I used that one for the lower, and I could quite go through the shift, because it's a shift you have to make. And I make a shift. That's at least for me the secret is to make a shift. I changed my shift actually because one of my own students, who is now a principal in the Metropole Orchestra, Jan Oosting, he studied 2 years with me, tenor trombone player. And one day he took up his tenor trombone, a Bach 36 with Wolf, and he played extremely loud pedal C on this tenor trombone. And I was
We're talking about contra pedal C.
Yes. And I was really going like, how do you? I said, I put my mouthpiece really down here, and then I go like this. And I said, okay. So I went home. And I tried a little bit and nothing happened. And the next day I tried again. And now that is my setting for my,
really?
How do you say, my really low pedals. But of course still the shift is there. And that's of course a little bit of a problem. If Milton asked me exercises, well, first of all, you simply have to find a way, if you want it, to the low notes to sound well, to find a setting in your embouchure. And it's not fixed. You cannot say, Ben is doing this, so I also have to do this. No, you have to find your setting. There are many, many ways. And then the trick is to study, for instance, study from, like for me, it was like studying with my normal embouchure, more or less more normal embouchure, from pedal B flat as low as possible. So going into my shifted embouchure register, and then start there with my shifted embouchure register, and then go up as high as possible with this shift embouchure, which actually is for the very lows. So I can go a little crossfade, I make a crossover in embouchure.
Yeah, but there's always this fatigue, this difficult part where the link appears, which is hard.
And if you ask me, do it on the spot, I can very honestly say that I probably will fail, because at this moment I'm not always, when I have to do this, I put extra effort and weeks before I start to study in this direction.
One of the answers you already answered before, it was about the breathing. It was by Adrian Vera from Spain. He was asking, what routine do you follow to work on breathing? I think before you mentioned a little bit about that, so we are going to move to another question. For example, David Johnson, tips on fast articulation. I have actually I have watched today in a couple of hours before a video. I don't know if you uploaded it. Is you doing a warm-up routine in a master class? I don't know where is that. It has a lot of views. It has thousands of views.
The Dutch bass trombone open, probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And at some point you play something super fast, but it sounds so easy. And I was thinking, is he doing like single staccato? Is he doing double? So
okay, that's that's really putting the finger on the sore spot, because because I think honestly I can say that I was quite famous for my fast single tonguing. In my youth, I could go really much faster than most other people I met. But to be honest, when you get older, this is one of the things which really starts to become problematic. So I'm sure that what you heard on the Dutch bass trombone when I did this, whatever I did, is for sure double tone. For sure double tone. But what to do? What for me extremely important again, and actually many times the solution for a problem or to get something in a better shape is the air. So if I do quick tonguing, I don't focus only on the tongue, but I try to focus even more on the flow of the air. Okay. Yeah, I always compare it a little bit with when you have a flat stone and you throw this flat stone over a lake, a flat lake without wind, and you see the flat stone goes like chung 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 chung, and then it falls in the water. It goes. So it's flying on the air. So the tongue is actually a stream of air of. Is really the air has direction. But if I start to focus too much on my tongue, you get a sort of and everything starts to get stuck in the throat, and the quickness is gone. So there are a few things which I can I can put on many aspects of my idea of playing the trombone. And actually it is what I call effortless playing. Is trying to find a way. I'm lazy. I'm a very lazy guy. So I don't have to work so hard. Well, I'm more lazy than you think. Believe me. But, of course there are moments where, if I play the ride of the Valkyrie or short ride in a fast machine, to say something, if I have to play bum, bim, bum, bim, bum, bim. After that, of course, I have a feeling like, wow. But at the same time, if I play bum, bum, ba-dum, bim, bum, if I play this with too much what I call white knuckles, if you go with your fist like this and you play like this, the sound falls off your bell directly on the ground. There is no projection whatsoever. And so a sort of relaxation, effortless way of playing, but also in articulation, find a way that it goes easy, and it goes much more easy if you blow. Blow through your tonguing. That's the key word.
An example that I liked also, I love the one you said about throwing a stone, something like that. When I was studying in Hanover, I remember Jonas Billund saying something about tongue is kind of like a flag, and only when you blow the flag moves.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a consequence of the blowing. So Ben, here you are the boss in this podcast. Of course, it is getting a little bit late. So I just, whenever you want to say, let's do it fast.
I'm still fresh. And,
okay, because we have a few questions, like people is talking through the chat. For example, this is quite fun. Like Pablo Martinez, he's saying, talking about shifting, Martin van den Veer does it the other way around, pulling his lower lip totally out of the mouthpiece, which I find impossible to do. Have you tried that?
I've tried it, and of course I know Martin. We are talking actually at this moment a lot because he's editing my third duet video, which will be. I'm very excited about it. But I know him extremely well, so of course I tried it, and I cannot do it, but he can do it better than. The other day he sent me. I will post it on Facebook. He sent me a short thing he did very recently. And wow, this guy can play those pedals. It's unbelievable.
Somebody, I think you kind of answered this. I'm not sure there is an answer for this. How do you do about slurring through the embouchure changes?
I for sure take my mouthpiece exercises sometimes for this. Do it only on the mouthpiece because. Sometimes, at least I experience that holding the instrument, playing in the instrument feels a little bit like a handicap. And when I take the instrument away, also mouthpiece, but when I do this, I don't have the Spanish one here, but I have this one, this little resistant thing, it's the buzzer. I need a little bit of resistance to buzz the pedal notes. So then again, I try to make through glisses. That's also one of the things I use a lot in my technical approach of playing the trombone, and especially registers. Also, when we go to the high registers, I use a lot of glissandi because we have the possibility of the glissandi. Trumpet players have to do this, can only do this on the mouthpiece, but we can do the glissandi on the trombone. So we can also do this. We can also do this for the pedals, gliss, like what I said, gliss down with your normal embouchure and try to make that shift and see, sometimes I noticed myself that, for instance, the shifting embouchure, my most favorite shifting embouchure, I can also change that a little bit more into the direction of my normal embouchure. And then it still works. Perhaps not as loud, but then if I go from there, I can quite easily go to the real shift. So
I would say it depends also on the passage. Like you have to be creative, and sometimes it works down one way and some others another way.
Yeah. There's not one solution, and it's for sure not a solution which works for everybody. It's. But I know for sure, that's what I discussed with Martin van den Berg also a lot, it's always about, and especially in the low register, avoid pizzicato. Avoid playing very short in the low register. Play longer, connect more, at least connect with air. Even when it's do, 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 it can still sound somewhere there as rather short, but it's still... The air is going on, and there is a connection, because new notes, I think the same is a little bit for very high register. New notes is difficult. You know, the beginning and little stops in music can make something happen here. But if you have the sound, keep the sound. If you have the setting, keep the setting.
This is a question by me. I have to say that some of the questions I'm not mentioning them because they are for maybe the end of the interview. Some people is asking things about guitar, your reality as a guitar player as well. They are asking you, are you gonna play it? I'm not sure. Maybe it's too late. We will see. Some answering to your answers, the person who asked that, he's saying, I find I can play a low C with two different embouchure, loud and soft. They are different. There's no nice in between. You know, that happens to everybody.
That happens. I know. But you know, I know if you keep trying and put effort in it, it's many times, you know, it's for instance when you have to study a very difficult passage, and you have made already some mistakes in it. Now you have to study this passage over and over to get it finally good. The mistake many times that people make then is that they stop there. They say, yeah, it's good now. And they go on to something else. No, now the work starts. You have to continue doing it the right way. And so the same is with this thing, with the two embouchures. If you every day put some effort in playing your softest embouchure and make it louder, and your loudest embouchure and make it softer, I'm sure it becomes better.
Okay, let's do something for everybody who's here. I would really appreciate if you can subscribe, not only to my channel, but also to Ben's. I attach his social media in the description, his Instagram, his Facebook account. So feel free to follow him and follow also this channel. So, because we're going to have Koichiro Yamamoto next week, we're going to have Nitzan Haros, we're going to have Mireia, principal trumpet of the Catalonia Symphony Orchestra. Nice. Many people. So it's a good cheap free way to support this channel.
Absolutely.
So what we're gonna do is this. Feel free to keep asking your questions to the chat. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move to the final chapter of this podcast, and then at the end we see how much remaining time we have and what else can we answer. Maybe Ben will play the guitar. We will see. Maybe it's too late. Okay.
Probably too late.
Yeah. So stay if you want to hear him play guitar. So at the beginning of this chat, you said something about the difficulty to make the halls crowd, you know, to make a sold out nowadays in some orchestras. Some others are doing great. So sometimes in my live chats, I'd like to talk about the upcoming challenges that the classical music industry have. So how would you grow audiences, and how would you grow the amount of students who want to be professional players?
Wow, that's a big question. If I would have the correct answers for that, I could make myself very rich, I think. Because this is, of course, what we are all looking for. What can we do? I see first of all, I think social media is a new platform. It's not new anymore, but for the classical world, it's still a little bit new. And I think we see it in this pandemic situation. You see the value for orchestras, what the value is of the social media, of Facebook, of Instagram, of making things sound good, which always has been the case, of course, but also look good and look interesting. To, of course, think about younger people. At the same time, I also see, and this is something that happens a little bit, I'm sad about that, with my own orchestra, is that sometimes we forget a little bit the old the older public, the older people who are still there. And of course, at a certain point, older people are not there anymore because they simply die. But other people are getting older. So for a while in my orchestra, we were focusing too much on young people. We were doing The Lord of the Rings, and we were doing all sort of film, musical concerts, movie concerts. And we were going, in my opinion, a little bit too much outside of the classical thing we are really good in. But you have to sell it again in a new way. And but this is, of course, very difficult. And again, if I would have this answer, really great answer to this problem, many people will be very happy. We are looking in my orchestra for this, and I think every orchestra at this moment is doing this, and it's also not going bad. It's going now bad because we simply are not allowed to have any audience in the hall anyway. So that's the most weird thing you can imagine. But to reach the people today is that's absolutely completely different than in the past. Difficult. The other thing is reaching students. Well, I think I'm doing my utmost best. You are doing your utmost best. With this type of presentations, with the videos we make, with all sort of things that are happening, awareness of master classes around the world, summer festivals, youth orchestras. Yeah, we are doing our utmost best, but it's the time of Netflix and all sort of things, video games. It is difficult.
Yes,
but I think at the end it will be perhaps a little bit less. I don't know how it is in Spain, but for a long time, with all respect for the many orchestras we had in Holland, but we had so many orchestras in Holland, which was actually a little bit ridiculous. It was great for the people who worked there, but every little town had its own orchestra, for instance, and I don't think that's really necessary. So in a way, what happened is not nice, because it's a lot of work which is gone and will never come back, and I'm very sad about that. But on the other hand, I hope that what is left over will be stronger and will be more flexible. I think the word to survive is to be flexible. And to be very quickly in reacting on things that happen, even when it's TikTok. If TikTok brings something which can be interesting to appeal to people and to motivate and inspire young people to listen to, and also how you bring it, how you visualize it. And sometimes I look back to my orchestra and then I see people play, and of course people play the way they play, but I see them play. And if you have a close-up of somebody like that, I don't know if that's very inspiring for a young guy to play a viola or whatever.
Yes, viola. Always messing with viola. What? I've thought about this a lot, and I think some people misunderstand what reaching new audiences mean. I think some people is approaching that in a maybe not wise way. What I mean is that you don't necessarily need to change the product. That's what people is doing. Is okay, I'm gonna play Mozart dancing, or I'm gonna play Mozart putting a clown nose. But actually, what you can do, and I know, for example, here even in Spain, there's a case where there's a new brand orchestra, is semi-private, semi-public, but they have almost no budget. But this orchestra is the one with more subscribers, in the entire Spain. Why? Because they are creating like this kind of American productions, showing the orchestra inside, very good cameras, drones, things like that. But they are selling Mozart and they are selling Beethoven, but in a package. so beautiful.
Yeah,
They're doing, like for example, maybe a famous people go and presents the concert.
Yeah,
So when the piece starts,
Yeah.
like people have this link between that person that they know, classical music.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe exploring those horizons could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you've recorded many CDs. That was before your first one. Probably was before the social media world started. Can you tell us? I know Nana, First Song, Melody, Never Alone, World Concerto. Is there any other left that I
well, the last one is of course is Brisas Andaluzas.
Brisas Andaluzas. Yes, with the guitar actually.
Yes. That's actually a sort of how do you say a dream project. Because besides the trombone, people know this. I like very, very much. I'm completely crazy actually about flamenco, and especially it started with me with El Camarón de la Isla, and Paco de Lucia, of course, as a guitar player, and that had so much impact on me, and still has. Still many times when I want some relaxation, I put on my headphones and listen to all the old recordings of Camarón.
Do you know Cañizares as well?
Of course.
Cañizares.
Of course, He was second guitar player, of course, many years in the group of Paco de Lucia, and now, of course, is Major League, Vicente Amigo, and all those guys. Listening to all this type of music has always a super big influence on me. It's so much fun.
And somebody asked, how does playing guitar has influenced your trombone player or your musical life? Greetings from Italy. Gabriel Freitas Santos.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's perhaps interesting because I remember that when I was studying at the conservatory many, many years ago, one of the complaints in the beginning of my teacher was that he said, actually, really, his words were, you play too much flamenco guitar on your trombone. With other words, he thought flamenco was free, and flamenco in a way is free, but it's very, very strict actually. In compass and things like that, it's very you're not so free as people think. That makes it very difficult. But actually, when I finished my study and I was doing sometimes a little bit of solo stuff, I brought in actually again the flamenco in my solo playing, because the influence of flamenco is first of all is passion. Is of course it's always coming from the corazón.
Corazón means heart.
Duende. It's really very deep. But also the rhythm and the compass is also extremely important. So it's also something I like to bring in my playing. And above all, is always what I try to do in every note I play, and especially in all. And you can probably see it in my choice of music. One of my best students and one of my best friends is Brand Attema, and he is at this moment absolutely one of the most famous and unbelievable player. But he has a different taste of music. He also likes the music I like, but he has a very he likes very much contemporary music. And I respect this, that's great, and what he does with all the instruments. But that's not my choice. My choice of music, that's why I recently, of course I know Piazzolla already for a long time. But this music is, for me, that's really, I feel like I can do something with my sound, with my legato, with my phrasing, and that's what I like. That's what I also, on Nana and First Song and Never Alone, all the music, it's melodical.
I don't know if it were you. Maybe I made this up. I'm not sure. I know that you go from time to time to Spain, right? You like to travel here. Is it true that you mentioned that you would like to live at some point here or not really? Or it doesn't,
Well,
maybe I made it up.
At this moment, we are talking a lot about it. We are not going to do this, or because we are family people, and our grandchildren are living very close to us,
Yes.
and they are.
But maybe on vacation.
Oh yes, we would love to, and we are very we are, how do you say, not so we're not so into adventures. We prefer to go twice or 3 times a year to Gran Canaria. And we go to Puerto de Mogan, little place there, which we like a lot. We go there already since almost 20 years now.
True.
And the weather is great. You know, the ambiente is great. It's the food is great. Everything is great there.
Yes.
I love your country.
Except from politics, which we won't talk about that. But
okay,
but the rest is fine. Okay, we're gonna play because now Ben, and as he said, there's gonna be a new release soon, a new duo. We don't know the other. Do we know the other player?
I'm sure you know the other player.
Okay. We're gonna play a short clip of one of these duos where he served, stage with somebody who he just started. His name is JOSEPH ALESSI. I'm not sure if you will know him, but I'm just kidding. Okay, let's listen to this. So we are back here with Ben van Dijk. This is gonna be the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the podcast. So feel free to write your questions. We will answer as many as possible. But of course, we've been here for so long, and it already paid off. So what I was gonna say is, I know each player has his own strategy at the time they record a CD. Do you have any specific plan? For example, I like to record the high stuff or the fast stuff at the beginning, and then I focus on the rest. How do you approach recording sessions?
Okay, well,
maybe maybe even homemade sessions.
Okay, for my homemade videos. Okay, well, it of course it all starts with knowing your part. Knowing what you want to do in the recording, that's extremely important. And of course, the next step, especially for the home video stuff, is to find a way that you can record a sound which is appealing, a sound you like yourself to listen to, and which you think is more or less the sound you produce. Of course, we simply don't know what is coming from our bell ourselves, because we're always behind the bell. So I have a sort of imagination of my perfect sound. And I'm lucky with the help of Martin van den Berg, who is a really audiophile, is really somebody who is completely into audio stuff. And he advised me in the choice of very cheap stuff, actually. I don't have very expensive material. You know, I have an SA. What's the name of the? I can send it later if people want to know this. Microphone and interface, and I use
Focusrite.
Focusrite. I have a Focusrite interface, and I use simply Logic Pro 10, and I use a little bit of EQ and a little bit of compression in that. And of course, I look for a sort of reverb room, which sounds nice. But this microphone and the setup of how I said it, that's something Martin advised me in, and it helped me a lot to do what I do. You know, it's absolutely my microphone. I think it's 170 euros or something. You know, it's nothing. It's really nothing. It's not. But it took me, of course, a lot of making experimental things with the recording, trying the distance from the microphone, how far am I away. I bought myself. I can show a little bit because I have my microphone here. As you can. Wow. I don't know if it's a little bit. No, it's not really visual. So I have this behind it, so that I don't have any space. Oh, sorry, I put it here because otherwise my voice goes away. Because I use it now simply for the podcast. It's just one microphone I have and this interface. But of course it starts with your own playing.
Okay, Martin Siepers is in the chat. He's Benito.
Hey,
he's saying Benito, abrazo desde Amsterdam.
We
have also orchestral play along, saying your home videos are the best. So maybe somebody saying that from orchestral play along. Talking about the way you record, what you're saying is so true. Like I think actually the way I also record myself is not very common. I think you have to find your own way. I was discussing that with Martin Siepers as well. For example, I tried many times to go back in the distance, like different positions, and at the end, I found out that in my case the driest is the better, because later you can really see how the reverb acts.
Absolutely.
And also, for example, I know when you record directly on a mic like this, there are some imperfections. But at the same time, the sound is at its purest. So then, if you apply correctly that little equalizer, and you get rid of that air, because of course if you play here
too close, yes, correct.
And in my case, that's the way I found, like, this really
me too
captures.
And especially because I did quite a lot of these overdub recordings, and you know, on first song I did my very first overdub doing this Wagner for bass bones. I made an arrangement which a lot of people are playing, and I made this recording, and I remember I was doing this in a studio, and it was quite a big hall, and it's okay if you listen to it, it's okay, but actually I don't like it so much, because what we did was we recorded it with the microphones probably 2 meters in front of me, and we got, I think I did 8 trombones in that recording. We got 8 times, we got the room 8 times. So, you know, that you get a lot of...
it multiplies the acoustic
it
many
multiplies
times.
of the room. That's why it needs to be as dry as possible. And actually, when I did the recording with Joe, which the duet you were... we had because, you know, this is, of course, crazy stuff, because I'm here and Joe is in New York in his room, completely different. To make this sound like 2 people playing together in one room is really difficult. And it was a little bit difficult because Joe is, of course, Joe is Joe. You know, what do I have to say?
Of course.
I got this tape and I was like, oh my goodness, this is unbelievable what this guy is doing. And but the way it sounded was, in the beginning, for Martin van den Berg is doing my editing and mixing. It was a little bit difficult to make it blend with my sound, and because he was using, you know, the room where the stairways is there, so there's a lot of sound going into there, and that made it difficult. Martin van den Berg did, in my opinion, a magical job bringing the 2 of us together like we were in a studio.
Because, you know, maybe people don't know, but for example, if you're playing in a room where there is a little bit of noise sound in the background, there are ways you can release, you can eliminate that sound, but eliminating that those frequencies. You also eliminate some of the frequencies of the sound. So then you have to adjust the sound, and sometimes it's not fixable. So that's the difficult thing about that.
For me, I showed you this little screen I have behind my microphone. That works great because it limits. Actually, sometimes I'm recording and I'm living here next to a place where children are playing, and sometimes children are playing there. And I record, and if there is something on the distance, I don't mind. It's not a CD recording what I'm making. It's home videos. It's in principle it's amateur work what I'm doing, but I try to make it sound as beautiful as possible.
Okay, we have a few questions here. According to this by Duncan Robertson, hello, I wonder if you could talk about your approach multi-track recording. In concrete, he's asking, I find it difficult in that when it exposes my intonation issues. So I would say the first step would be to know the piece and being able to play it in tune.
I'm also confronted many times with moments where I think, okay, Ben, so you thought your G was there. And then I listen back and I think, oh my goodness. It's absolutely also, I made now in this period 26 videos, and actually it's going quicker because I learn constantly also how to play and how to listen, and also timing wise, I almost never work with the click track of the computer. I mostly make my own click track. If I make a multi-track, I count off, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I sit in front of the score and I try to think of the music. So there is a little bit of fluctuation in the tempos, which when we play music.
But then you can adjust these little fluctuations.
Of course.
I also like that. I also like that better.
Yeah.
Rather than hearing a click all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if I understand this question. Somebody's saying from Israel. I think I know this guy. His name is Tomer, but is in an outside record. Tomer, yes, in an outside recording section. How do you organize the difficulty level of the movement in the piece for not getting tired? If you ever get tired, and a smiley face.
Oh yes, I get tired very easily. But here, what helps me, you have to be a little bit economic. You have to see in the music what you have to play. Where do I really have to put my energy in on the highest level, and where can I sort of lay back a little bit? There are always moments, perhaps not in every music, but in most pieces, there are moments where you can recover a little bit. You can, something what was very hard before, but in this part you can. It's all about blood circulation. If you have played too much and you had a little bit too much of your left arm in your embouchure, you kill your embouchure. So you need to get a little bit away from pushing your mouthpiece against your. And this is where this effortless playing, which I try to, I simply quickly said this effortless playing idea, because most of the ideas I have are ideas of people I met and influence of and this was actually Alain Trudel. Trudel. And I met him in 1992 in Detmold, and I think he was 26 or 27, and the guy played a recital and I was flabbergasted. I was really like, what is this guy doing so easily? And he was smiling and there was no tension whatsoever. There was musical tension, but no, not this terrible feeling. I invited him to give a master class for a week with my students at that time at the school I was teaching. And he was talking about this relaxation and trying to play in the most, also moving your slide exact from position to position, but move it in an easy way, not tension because when I go like this with tension, there is directly tension in the throat and everything is killed. So if you if you suffer from fatigue, when you have problems with endurance in pieces, try to relax more in the pieces. Easy said, and of course not easy to change, but find it in this way.
Okay, I don't know if it is too late. Just I understand. Somebody asked before, Pablo Martinez. Hi Ben, are you gonna play some guitar for us tonight?
No, I'm not. I have two reasons. I didn't play so much guitar lately. Oh, bad excuse. The worst excuse is that actually my strings also need to be replaced. And the third thing is, people think, I'm a smart guy. I play in my studio, I play guitar. And I always said I will never play a recital or whatever. And my colleagues also ask me, oh Ben, when we have a trombone quartet concert, take your guitar and you can. No way, Jose. I know my limitations, and I can make a pretty good sound and a nice accompaniment and some little solos, and I have a lot of fun playing the guitar.
Okay, I have the last two questions for you.
Yep.
Okay, this is by myself. By the way, I have to say I would love to invite Steven Verhelst to one of these live chats. As a composer, I admire him and what he's done for the trombone community. I also recorded many years ago the Devil's Vals as well. And so maybe if you had this contact with him, you can tell him.
No problem.
I can send a bottle of wine or anything. Everything is possible.
I'm sure he loves to do this.
And so, can you tell us a little bit about upcoming projects? What is coming?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, not so much. Sounds a little bit strange. Yeah, sounds a little bit strange. These Brisas Andaluzas, which was a composition of Ilja Reingoud, was my dream project. And it felt also a little bit, it's not 100% sure to be honest, but I don't know if there will be another CD or whatever. I think I will continue simply if I'm thinking of projects. Now, the third duet of Steven is coming, and I feel with Steven and also with myself that it might continue. A fourth one will probably also come.
Maybe for the 10th one, I'm one of the volunteers. It's okay.
Super. I keep that in mind. But I will continue with, the other day I made a little mistake a joke on my Facebook account when I made, you have this adverbs when you play an instrument. Now people know I play Tyne, so Tyne performing artist, and I changed it in a Tyne recording artist. Because I think when I finish the orchestra, which is pretty soon, I will probably play a couple of weeks after the summer, some projects, and then it's finished. And I will continue teaching. And I can make a little announcement here, because at this moment I'm teaching in Rotterdam Codarts, and I'm teaching in The Hague, the Royal Conservatoire. But I will stop teaching in Codarts. I will continue there for 2 more years to finish my students, which are now in the second year. And then I will only be teaching, continue teaching in Codarts. So I will, in Codarts, in the Royal Conservatory in The Hague, where I actually started my studies. So I can also finish there as a teacher. But I agreed with the school to continue teaching until they or I think it's enough. And we have to be open in this. And as long as I can add something to the trombone class and add something to the trombone community, I will be teaching there. But at this moment, I don't think I will do many live performances anymore. I think that's, to be honest, a little bit enough. And that comes back to a little bit this nerves and this anxiety, performance anxiety thing. it was hard work to stand up and to play on an international trombone festival in front of all those people. And besides an orchestra job, besides being a family man, and not everyday recital like some people when you play. Many times I played only once half a year. I play a recital, and then it's difficult to stand up against
of course
all. So
yeah, I can understand, like, when it happened to me for a while. Of course, I have nothing to say here, but when you record yourself a lot, and I've done that for the last few years, you kind of, at least this happened in my own experience, like I started to believe that what I was posting was my daily basis standard playing. And at some point you have to realize, okay, and I have to tell students as well, I make mistakes, I fucking up all the time. So
true, absolutely. And I'm the first one to agree this, and to people have a sort of expectation, and I have also a sort of expectation, when I stand up and play somewhere. And to make that really work, you have to work so hard to be on that standard. And that's why I admire people like Joe Alessi, Jurgen van Rijen, Brand Attema, and all those guys who do it every time again and again. But I also know what a work this is for those guys. And I told you, I'm a little bit lazy. There's so much more I like in life than besides this wonderful instrument, which is a big part of my life. But there is more than the trombone. Okay,
and this is my very last question, because I know I already took advantage too much of your generosity.
No. I really enjoy it. Really,
so
it's really nice
I usually ask which are your dreams. In this occasion, I'm gonna say a two-part question, which is, which dreams you have already fulfilled? Which dreams are you still waiting for?
Yeah, okay. Well, probably they are two different things of my life. I think I've fulfilled the career I was dreaming of. I'm super happy with who can say 45 years on a bass trombone chair, mostly having fun. I really enjoyed my orchestral life. I enjoyed my sidekicks, my little solo projects, the master classes around the world, my work together with the Tyne Company, helping them to build a beautiful line of instruments. That's like a dream come true, that's absolutely... and the most important, and that's actually also directly the dream for the future, is I have a great family. I'm a family man. I have a lovely wife, two great sons, beautiful daughters-in-law who are sweet, and the most sweet grandchildren you can imagine. And my dream is that we can live together for a long time in health and happiness and without all sort of distortions. So the biggest dream is for my family, and the music will come and continue, and I will keep enjoying music, listening to all the people, already, it's so inspiring to hear the young people of today hear me. I feel very young still, but I'm not young anymore. And if I hear young guys, if I hear all those young guys play, to play with Milton these duets, and who knows, perhaps we will do something in the near future, and when I listen to your playing, it's amazing. When the Dvorak you did with orchestra, the Aus der Neue Welt, that was.
But that was
wow,
many time ago. But
it's you playing, man, so.
But thank you.
It's a dream to enjoy, to enjoy life. That's the most important.
Before we started this interview, I was telling Ben that when I was 9 years old, My teacher in my hometown used to bring his CD Nana, and sometimes after the individual lessons, he used to play one track or another, and we were like, I remember he was saying, Ben van Dijk, he's the best trombone in the world. Sometimes he said Ben van Dijk and also Christian Limber. Back at that time, it was like. But I have to say thank you very much for being here. It's been a pleasure for me, especially because we never met personally. So it was the first time we chat together. It was a wonderful experience. I have to thank everybody who was in the chat, who sent questions for Ben. Also, I encourage you all to support Ben van Dijk in his social media. You can find him on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify. If you want to support these live chats, you can also subscribe. Next week we have Koichiro Yamamoto, trombone at the Metropolitan Opera. And I'm learning a lot. And I was in a down moment before I started this podcast, and this somehow brought some meaning to my daily work.
That's what we were talking about. This brings inspiration, this type of things for the people, hopefully for the people listening, but also for us doing this.
Of course. So thank you very much, Ben. We're gonna say goodbye just by listening again to your video with Joe Alessi. But bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We
Ciao,
talk
ciao.
Soon. Bye-bye.